Welcome to Online Classes with Yoga Cheryl. Today we will continue with our exploration of the posture Downward Facing Dog, or Adho Mukha Svanasana, and focus on the alignment of the upper body, specifically the shoulders. So we're going to need a few props for our practice today. We'll need a bolster, a blanket, a block, and a strap. And as you collect your props, you're going to want to have a strap. If you can find one that's got a buckle on it, would be better. The practice that we'll be doing today, the intention is to open up the upper back and allow the arms to be in a good alignment so that you can bear weight on the hands when you're in downward facing dog. So let's get started. We're going to start out with a posture to sort of align the arms, almost like we're creating training wheels for the shoulders. I'm going to take my strap, again it's got a buckle on it, I'm going to make a loop that if I hold it doubled, it's about armpit to armpit, or maybe an inch or two wider on each side, so right across the chest. The idea here is that if you slip your hands on the inside, so it's above the elbow, you'll be able to keep the arms in a pretty much shoulders distance apart position, and even be able to take the arms up and forward. So orient that strap in that way. And then I've rolled my blanket up to make a little jelly roll. The bolster, I'm going to sit a few inches in front of the blanket. Then I will sit on the floor in front of the bolster, so that the bolster is going to create a little bit of a heart opener for me. Taking my strap around my arms. So upper, above the elbow, and I'm going to hold my block so that it is shoulder distance apart. And then place the feet in front of you and carefully lay back. You want to make sure your hips stay on the blanket, lengthening out the tailbone as needed. And I'm noticing that as I hold my block in my hands, my strap is a little bit loose. So I'm going to tighten that up just an inch or two by pulling on the loose end. Again, above the elbow. And now I feel like I can hold the strap, hold the block, and the strap is not too loose. So I'm going to press the block up toward the ceiling as my shoulder blades ground. And then just feel how the arms are rotated. So in this position, the inner elbow is facing the thumbs, the same direction as the thumbs. And see, keeping your shoulder blades down the back and draped across the bolster, can you let the arms come up a little higher? Now, depending upon the length of your arms, your strap might touch the forehead, which is a fine place for it to rest. It actually creates a little shelf. If that doesn't feel comfortable, you can let the strap go above the head and then let the hands rest on this roll behind you. So my shoulders are drawing down the back as I'm pressing up into my hands, trying not to shrug at all through those shoulders. And then your choice to extend the legs down to the floor. Of course, if this bothers your low back, keep the knees bent and the feet on the ground. I'm just going to hold this position. Rather than letting the elbows wing out into the strap, think of pulling those elbows inward, away from the strap. This will help to increase this sense of external rotation in the shoulder. And we'll talk a bit more about internal rotation versus external rotation in a few minutes. So just breathing here, breathing into the space of the chest. Making sure that the upper back stays very broad. Ground your thighs down into the floor. And take 2 more deep breaths. Try to breathe all the way up into the top of the chest. And then rebend the knees. Reach the hands toward the ceiling. Let one arm come out of the support, taking the strap completely off. Raising the arms toward the ceiling. Letting the right hand go to the top of the left shoulder. Letting the left hand go to the underside of the right armpit. And instead of squeezing, you're just going to let everything relax. So relaxing, begin shoulders into bolster. Try not to squeeze too tightly on the chest. So if this is difficult for you to breathe, actually bring the elbows a little further apart and a little higher. That's also appropriate. Just do what you can to feel a nice stretch between your shoulder blades. And stay there for a few breaths. Then reaching those arms up, you're going to reverse the way that they're crossed. So left hand to right shoulder, right hand under the left armpit, and relaxing into the bolster. Good, and then let the arms reach toward the ceiling and let the arms come down to the sides. Carefully come over to your side, off of your bolster. Push yourself up. And then just sit for a moment. We're going to add a little mudra practice in. So if you could make a fist with the hands and turn the palms up so that the thumbs are facing outward. And rest the backs of the hands on the knees. So after that passive back bend, it should be easier for you to sit up for a bit of seated mudra practice. And as you're breathing in and breathing out, notice that there is a sense of lightness at the top of the chest, both created by the mudra and by the opening that we experienced on the bolster. So feel the breath come right into this space under the collarbones. It's often called the eyes of the heart, that area. So let those eyes be buoyant and open as you're breathing in, maintaining that sense of lifted posture as you're breathing out. This mudra is called Urdhva Merudanda Mudra, or upward facing staff seal. A few more breaths. Before you change this position, notice how the shoulder blades are assisting our posture. The shoulder blades roll down the back, which helps to lift the chest and support the lungs. This is going to be a key postural alignment as we practice more arm positions and specifically downward facing dog. So you can release the gesture, and then let's take a moment just to explore the rotation of the arms. I'm going to sit on the bolster so that I'm a little higher away from the floor. So typically if you're standing and not doing anything with your arms, the arms tend to hang so that the palms face toward the body. We call this anatomic neutral. So this is without any rotation at all. Our arms have an ability to both internally rotate and externally rotate. So this rotation is actually coming from the shoulder, and it's enhanced by the movement of the forearm and the wrist. So if I were to externally rotate my arms, the idea is that the inner part of the elbow and the palm of my hand begin to turn forward, and then even maybe turn outward if that's a possibility. As I'm in external rotation, the shoulder blades, it's easy for them to sit low on my back. Conversely, if I start to internally rotate my arms, the hands turn toward my body, inner elbows turn a little bit more forward, perhaps even my palms turn toward the back, and even a little bit toward the outside. Now, this position, the shoulder blades are trying to climb up my back, and it feels like my chest is collapsing a little bit. If I were to try to take my arms forward of my chest, this is very challenging when the arms are internally rotated. It doesn't go very far. So what we want to do in downward facing dog, and in many of our asanas where the arms are flexed out to the sides or up in front of the body or even over the head, It's the external rotation that we're looking for. When I'm externally rotated, the chest is lifted, the shoulders are drawn down the back, and it's very easy for me to raise my arms up and over my head. Now we know that if we were to do downward facing dog, we wouldn't be doing downward facing dog on the fingertips, right? Like this, or like this on the backs of the hands. There's this idea that this lower arm, the forearm area, actually rolls inward. So as my upper part of my arm is rolling into external rotation, my forearm rolls in and my palm comes down. So this elbow alignment is really key. As we do downward facing dog, especially if you tend to be a very flexible person, and I am a great example of what not to do in this, I can hyperextend my elbows very easily, doesn't hurt, I don't even really notice it. So I have to make sure that my elbow crease isn't pointing forward. It's more pointed towards the thumb, the direction of the thumb, so it's kind of a diagonal up and forward. So when we get into our postures, we'll be talking a lot about elbow crease to thumb alignment, and that's what I'm talking about there. If you're very muscle bound in the upper part of the back or in the deltoid muscles, which is this cap of the muscle here over the shoulder, we tend to come into the position like this, where the elbows are winging out and the elbow creases are pointing more back toward the body. Now this position might feel strong because this is a push-up position. But when you try to straighten your arms and bear weight here, it takes a lot of pressure into the upper back and into the deltoids. So again, we're trying to roll out with the upper arm, roll in with the lower arm, elbow to thumb alignment. All right, so let's do a strengthening exercise now. I'm going to move these over here, then we'll use them in a second. This is a preparatory position for a pose called Vashisthasana, or side plank position. So side plank typically is done with the hips off the floor on the hand. For today, we're going to use the shoulder, the forearm down, so it's more strengthening around the shoulder. So let me show you what this looks like. If you sit with your feet to one side of your mat, the other forearm is going to come down on the ground. Now, just check to see, can you get your elbow and hip and hand all in the same alignment? That is the preferred alignment. If this is really difficult because this is external rotation, the hand can slightly come forward, but it's preferred to have the hand in front of the elbow. I'm going to let my bottom leg straighten completely out and then put my top foot in front of my bottom knee. The top knee is bent. This is going to be the push-off leg. This front hand here is here just to help me balance so we don't fall forward. So we're going to lift up, pressing into the outside edge of the bottom foot, pressing into the forearm, and pressing into the top foot as we push up. Hip comes off the floor just a few inches, and then you exhale and you release. So we're just going to pulse this. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Do two more. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. And then inhale, lift, and hold for a few breaths. If you're feeling balanced, the other hand can come to the hip. And then hand down and release down and bend both knees and sit up. Let's take this arm across the chest and give it a little pull here just to release the shoulder. So this is strengthening all around the shoulder blade. All right, and then let's try it on the other side. The feet are going to swing this way. Elbow right beside the hip, but body's distance away. Hand out, perhaps forward, but it's better if it's out. Bottom knee is straight. Top leg is coming for our push-off leg. Front hand is here just to help balance so you don't fall. So inhale, you're going to lengthen, belly in, tail long. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift. Exhale, release. Inhale to lift. Exhale, and then hold this last time. So inhale, maybe hand can come to hip and can even go out to the side if you prefer. Take a breath and then come back down. And then push yourself back up to seated. So this is a strengthener, and it can be repeated as many times as you like. There's actually a few things I'm going to show you during today's practice that can be considered almost like yoga strength training. That's one of them. We'll also do some work with plank in a few minutes. So now let's move back to a stretch. I'm going to bring my blanket under my knees just for some padding. And then I've got my loop again and my block. So the block is going to sit in front. I'm going to put my loop back on my arms. This is basically the same thing we did when we lifted the arms over the head, but this time we're going to add a little body weight. So holding your strap again in the same position, you're going to let the strap go on the floor. Make sure this stays above your elbow and slide out and lengthen the body and stretch. So again, the shoulders are rolled away from the spine. The inner elbows are in the same direction as the thumbs. As I come into child's pose, I'm feeling like I could take my knees back a little bit. My forehead might rest on my strap here, and I'm noticing as I move back into the posture, when do my shoulders start to roll in? And as soon as I feel that happen, I'm going to stop pushing back. So for me today, it's about right here. Keep the belly lifted, keep the spine nice and long. I'm just going to hold it on those forearms. Good. And then come back up from there. This time come onto the hands. Hands are a little wider than the block. And try the same thing. So it's a little bit more challenging now that we don't have the forearms on the floor. Lengthen yourself back. Head to strap if you like. And then inhale and forward. Let the strap come across the solar plexus. Exhale, lengthen back, keeping the shoulders broad, almost as though those shoulder blades are starting to wrap around the sides of your chest. Inhale, and lengthen the heart, tailbone long, belly in, into a plank. And then inhale back, or exhale back rather, and inhale forward. Hold here. So lifting the heart, maybe a little bend of the elbows to bring you more towards a cobra position. Take a breath in, and then releasing back. This time, let the strap come off. Widen those knees. Take the arms into internal rotation and come down to the floor. If this is not easy for you to do because your head does not reach the ground, you can always bring a block under the forehead. So breathe into the space between the shoulder blades. Relaxing those arms towards the knees. And then when you're ready to come back up, hands in front of the knees, and push yourself up to seated. And then let's take our block. We're going to stand from here. Move your blanket. This time, two choices. One would be to take the arms into the strap, but go behind the back. Now with this one, the strap is down low. It's down by the wrists. You can either do this, or you can clasp the hands together in this manner, if that's possible for you. I'm going to choose this strap version. Lift the heart and relax the shoulders. Pull the belly back and ground the thighs. Take a nice deep breath in. Bend the knees if necessary. We're going to pitch forward, lengthening the spine as you go, and letting the arms reach out. So my palms are facing inward, perhaps straightening through the legs if that's a possibility today. Otherwise, keeping the knees bent. Stretching now the fronts of the shoulders. Taking a couple more breaths. And then arms come back to hips. Sweep the whole spine up together on an inhalation. And then let the arms come out of the strap. Right. So back to more strengthening. We're going to start with a dolphin position, moving into a dolphin plank, and then we'll do the downward dog and the downward dog plank. Now for dolphin, you don't need to use the strap because the forearms are actually going to be on the ground. So for dolphin, there's a trick, I'll show you facing this way, of how do you know how far apart your shoulders and elbows need to go. So basically, if you come down on the floor and clasp the upper part of the arm, keeping the forearms stuck to the sticky mat, you're going to then clasp the hands together. Now, I'll do this facing this way now. So clasping, and then holding the hands. I like to tuck my pinky finger in so I don't squash my poor pinky finger. I'm going to take my toes under. Again, shoulders are broad, lifting the knees up off the floor. Keep the knees bent quite a bit and lift high up into the sit bones. Now you can hold dolphin or lengthen the stride a little bit. Inhale, come forward, face towards hands, and exhale and push up and back. Now if that's really challenging, this can also be done on the knees. You can inhale forward to here and exhale and lean back just a little bit. So let's do 4 more of whichever one you've picked. So inhale and exhale. Inhale forward, exhale back. Inhale forward, exhale back, last time. Inhale forward, exhale back, and then the knees come down, and then we relax all the way back. And again, wider knees is a bit easier. Forehead to floor or block. And then hands press you up to seated. Grab your strap one more time. Same loop above the elbow, this time for downward dog and plank. So as we come into the full position here, it's not that we're using the strap to push out into our, we're actually trying to keep the strap almost a little bit loose, like we're trying to draw the elbows inward. This is going to maintain our alignment a little bit better. So look at your elbow to thumb alignment, shoulders down the back. Take the toes under, take a breath in, and as you breathe out, come up into downward dog. Now your head might hit the strap, that's fine if it does that. Knees bend if the hamstrings are tight. Try not to sink the head towards the floor. So there's a lot of images out there online and in books that show downward dog done with the head on the floor. That's completely too much extension, or rather flexion in the shoulder and extension in the upper spine. We want to maintain a lot of structural integrity in this posture. So if you want to try the plank version, you're going to continue to hold the strap, let your chest come forward on the inhalations, and the exhalation, push yourself back into downward dog. So try that one a few times. Now this can also be done on the knees. So if you're doing the knee version, it's going to look like this. We did it earlier. Inhale forward. Exhale back to child's pose. Or in the downward dog version, you're in plank on the inhale, and the exhale, you're in dog. Same shoulder alignment. One more time. Elbows drawing in, shoulders are wide. Good. And then release. And let the strap go. And let's try a seated version of what we call yoga mudra, which is that bent forward, arms back position. So I'm going to again put my arms on the inside of my strap, lift the heart, come forward into child's pose, and raise the arms up. It's a wonderful release for all that work in the shoulder. And then releasing the arms down, you can let the strap go and push yourself up. All right. So I think we're ready to do an unassisted downward facing dog now. So for the unassisted version, same idea. Hands go in front. You're going to relax the shoulder blades down the back. Now we don't have the strap to hold us in anymore, so draw the elbows in, elbow to thumb alignment. Take the toes under. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, lift up. You're going to stop pushing backwards as soon as you feel your shoulders start to roll in so that the top of the back stays nice and broad. Maybe walk the dog a little bit. Feeling the calves opening. So we didn't do much hamstring or any hamstring opening in this practice. So we might not be able to get a full shape of downward dog, but you're going to lift up through those sit bones, keeping the knees bent if necessary, or perhaps dropping the heels back. Hold the pose as long as you can maintain proper alignment. As soon as the muscles start to fatigue and the alignment starts to slip, that's the cue to come back down. Or of course, if there's any discomfort. And then go ahead and sit. Sit up and roll the shoulders a few times. All right, very nicely done. So next, let's actually get ready to rest and remove the props out of the way. We're going to do a little bit of bridge, and then we'll do the shavasana on a rolled up blanket. So since we're going to do two positions where we're lying on the back, let's get our blanket for shavasana ready. Unfold the blanket so that the fringes are on one side, and then roll it up in a little jelly roll. And just lie it beside the mat. We'll take it up in just a second. So for bridge, come down, palms down and on the mat. This is a more internal rotation of the arm. So external rotation would be palms up. Internal rotation is palms down. And I'm not just doing that for my forearm. I'm actually trying to roll a little bit with the upper arm as well. So pressing down into the floor. Let's lift the hips straight up on the breath in. Lengthen the tailbone towards the backs of the knees. And exhale to release. So coming up and down a few times here. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, lowering. If you want to hold, you're welcome to lift and hold for a few breaths. And then release all the way. Take a moment to pause. And then roll over just so that you can get your blanket in position. So the fringy end I'm going to take to the wall. Go ahead. So the fringe side I'm going to take toward the wall, sit on the other end. So usually we sit in front of it, but actually sit on it. And align the spine up so that you're right in the center. You can leave the fringes back here or tuck them under the head if you need some support. Take the legs out, take the arms out. And let everything relax, feet rolling outward. If this doesn't feel comfortable on the legs, you can put a bolster under the knees. And then start to wiggle the fingers and toes, taking some deeper breaths. Bend the knees one and then the other. Roll to the side. Push yourself back up to a seated position. Bringing the hands up to the heart. Namaste.